Yeah, so welcome everyone to the last day of CodeRefinery. Um, this day really connects everything together. So it really is a good example of how we might approach a real project. Our projects don't start off perfect, using everything that we talk about and immediately become something good, but it really is like we start yeah, we're starting from some single block of code and we'll slowly evolve it, and that's quite realistic. Our material is down here under modular type along. So I will open that up and it's here. Let me adjust it. Yes, you see it. Mm, yeah. So, what's the point of modular code development and this
Um,
lesson?
well, uh, I think to me it means to better organize the code such that it can be used easily, it can be iterated easily, and it's easy to collaborate with people. But
Mhm.
maybe we can start from example of not that modularized code. There's a link, the curse of bad code design. Can you open that?
Yeah, let's see. This is a good picture.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
these are many things that can happen when
Mhm.
you get somehow a bigger size of code block. It happens a lot to me. At the beginning, I
Yeah.
have a task to complete. I will get some code from somewhere or figure out myself. Then I will add stuff, Then at some point, I will get almost all the problems here, like some duplications, some like unclear defined variable names. Yeah, things like that.
Mhm, mhm. Especially this duplicated code part here. Like, I've often seen this pattern. You have something, and then I make a copy to slightly adjust it, and then maybe I make another copy, and suddenly I have three copies, and I might fix something in one place, but not another place. And if I ever have to come back to it, it's like, okay, well, there's just too much here. I don't know which one is actually the important one. But okay, yeah, so I guess we will try to avoid these things there. So does this mean our code should never be messy?
I would say no, because there's no need to be afraid of messy code, uh, because it's quite inevitable to get some messy code at some point. Then you probably
Mhm,
will notice, okay, it's not efficient enough. I needed
mhm,
to do something to make the code easier to read, easier to show to people, and yeah, then you start to reorganize your code.
mhm, mhm,
With some techniques you can see at today's session or something you learned. Um, but at some point, it will get messy again uh, because the project is getting larger.
mhm.
There are more components, there are more logics in your code. Then maybe you should do a second reorganization. So it's basically a iteration of making it a cleaner thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no need to be afraid of.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I guess let's get started. So the general idea of what we're doing today. So I should say I'm a stand-in here. I joined relatively late, so I'm not entirely sure all the things that are going on, but I think you can guide me through. So
Okay.
um, we have 20 minutes with the introduction that we've already started and some example code in a notebook.
Yeah.
And then we have 20 minutes for you to work on it and think about it yourself. Then we discuss some, and at the end, we do a big live coding session where you give ideas and we keep improving things.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess we can begin starting here. One thing we should say is that the code here is in Python, and we're sorry that we don't have it in more languages. We'd be happy if someone can contribute the R example here. It is blank right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, how will people participate in today's lesson? Like what will they do?
It always works best if people are engaged in the collaborative notes. You can watch us live coding and giving us suggestions in the notes. I will look at the notes, then we will fit that into our live coding. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
But
great.
if you want to code along, it's also an option. Yeah.
Yeah. So from what I understand, our sample problem is here. So it's the same
Yes.
sample problem we've used for quite a few years now. We have some weather data in a CSV file from the Helsinki airport, and then we do some plotting. So we start with this initial Python code here, and let's just pretend that we got this from a content generator or something like that. So, it's been given to us. It has these nice comments, it does stuff, but we aren't fully sure of the details of what it's like. Um, at least the different parts here look new to me. But we see going through, there's Pandas and Matplotlib, which is the main data frame and plotting Python things. We see it reads data, does some sort of data mangling. We get 1 month of data, apparently, and then we do plotting. So we plot the air temperature and label the graph, and that's that.
Yeah, that's basically the starting point of the exercise and also the demo. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So what will our learning outcomes for this be?
Yeah. Can you scroll up? Yes, here. Um, I won't go to the details of the outcomes. But the basic idea is modular code development. So make the code simpler while still doing what you want it to do. Make it easy to understand and easier to maintain in the future, or easy for people to contribute. Yeah. Probably nothing too surprising will happen today, but you can see how we make the code more modularized step by step, and then you will realize that why this is important.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Will this be very theoretical?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because,
Let's maybe mm,
yeah,
do something, some quick demo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So, okay,
Mm.
here we are. Um, so our exercise is, well, actually, we're starting with a demo, right?
Yeah, we have a
So,
sample notebook here. Yeah.
so I'll basically go through the steps of making this into a Jupyter notebook and running some things.
Yes.
Um, okay, so my typical project starting method. So first I need to activate the CodeRefinery environment. So I don't have the conda activate by default. So I run source forge. This is the magic word to activate a conda installation. And then copying from what I know, conda activate CodeRefinery. This activates the software which we've installed as part of the things. To keep stuff organized using use idea, I will make dir git ma modular exercise 2025 to keep stuff organized, and then I'll change that directory. And this is stuff that you can do some other way. Like if you were using VS Code or whatever, the equivalent of this is opening a new project in a new directory and telling it to use the conda environment. But this is how I normally do it.
Yes.
But certainly not the only way. So now we need to start Jupyter here.
Yeah, let's start it.
So since I have many different web browsers open here, I don't want it to start somewhere random. So I type JupyterLab, no browser. And with luck, it will start. And I copy one of these and paste here. And what do you know? It started. Okay, good. So I can reduce this down. So this has started. Yeah, so it started Jupyter in the directory of the project. So this is like opening a new project in VS Code or whatever. This is my home base. So I make a new notebook and I make the new Python thing and I will copy and paste from here. Oh, there's a copy button. And let me rename it to so I'll call it temperatures.ipynb. Do you think it will work?
Yeah, I think this code probably can work.
I'll click run. Waiting suspiciously long. Error. Read CSV.
You don't have the data file there.
There's no data file there. Okay. Yes.
Do you have the
So
link?
the link is here.
Yes.
So I can open this and I can save it and I can put it in the right place. But what I will do, I will copy this link and come here and go to the terminal here. And if I type wget and then I paste the link here, yeah, it will download it and put it right here. So this is what I'll often do when I'm getting small data files from the web. Instead of downloading it in a browser and then moving it, I can tell it to download it directly to the place it needs to be. But there's lots of different ways to do this. Should I try running again?
Yes.
At the moment of truth. You can go counting how many times something goes really wrong with what we do and how we need to fix it.
Yes, that's what I would expect.
Okay, but yeah, this looks about right. And wow, it was cold that January.
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so
So
it did something expected.
yeah. What should I do now?
But as you can see, there's only plot for the temperature values.
Mhm.
I think in most cases people want to see some statistics. For example, the average value of the air temperature of the month. We're using the January's data,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, people
Yes.
may want to know
Okay.
the average temperature.
Yeah.
What can we do that?
Yes. And by the way, you all should know that I'm cheating by looking at the solutions here and copying from it. We can take suggestions later, but for now it's a, going
Yeah,
for efficiency.
yeah, the quick
You,
demo.
you'll see you doing some more closer to real life coding later on, but
Yeah.
that's a bit beyond me right now. But okay, so we need to add a mean value.
Yes.
So, I guess it would go around here. Actually, I should make the font size larger, shouldn't I? Why haven't people said that? Or have they said, but I haven't seen.
No, I didn't see. Is the
Okay.
font size okay? If it's, yeah, you can say write down in the notes.
Is there some way to tell Jupyter to go to presentation mode?
Okay, font size
Oh,
is
that
okay.
didn't
Yeah.
change. Okay,
Mm.
good. Okay, so yeah, around here we clearly saw we added the plot for that. So let's add the new thing. First, we have to calculate the mean. And that is with this magic thing here. Let's see. RA temperature values. Yeah, so mean temp is sum divided by the number. And then we add in the plot itself, which would be here. And I know from previous work that there's, in Matplotlib, there's this axHline function. I'm sorry for doing copying and pasting. We'll do less of this later, but
Yeah, this is
first
a
time.
quick demo for the mainly for the exercise.
Let's mean temp, temperature. Okay, I will rerun it. And let's see what happens. Oh, that looks nice. Okay.
Yeah, we can see a horizontal line added to the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but sometimes there's only air temperatures now. Sometimes people want to see more plots for different measurements of the weather data. For example, precipitations. That's also in this sample data actually. Maybe we can
Yeah.
also do that.
Okay, so again, I bring in way too much at once. I place it here. This is,
Yeah, so basically this actually is a duplication thing of the air temperature visualization.
right. It
Uh,
looks,
yeah, kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
the similar thing. You plot the figure and then give it a title, give it a labels, and then
yeah,
save it to an image. Yeah, I think
yeah,
most people can already see the the problem here, but
yeah.
yeah, that,
I can, there'll be a lot of stuff to edit if we want to say, change it to a different month or do little adjustments to stuff.
yeah,
But it does
yeah.
look nice. And I think we're right on time to begin the alone session time.
Yes.
So yeah, if I remember right, where's the thing? So the
The
exercise.
exercise. Yes.
So there's two different things that you can do. So there's a discussion track where we're copying these questions into the notes and
Yes.
you can discuss and write stuff there we can see. And we'll talk about it when you get back. And other than that, you can do the coding track. So you take and there's some suggestions here. So start applying these to the code we have here. And unlike the way I started, there's also an exercise repository that includes the starting notebook and the data together. And with this, you can, yeah, this is a good, sort of a good already modular starting point or
Yeah, it's
starting
basically
repository.
the same code that you have seen before Richard added the precipitation and average values. The very same block of code. That's the starting point for the exercise.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's see, discussion track. I will update stuff into the notes, and should we let you go? Is it clear what people should do? So there's two options. You can either discuss in the notes, or you can take the code and try to do stuff. And then when we get back, we will live code together.
Yes,
Okay.
we should be back at maybe
Yeah.
20 to the hour,
Yes,
or maybe
20 to the hour.
20 or 18.
Uh, yeah, I guess 18 to the hour. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. See you soon.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Hello. We're back, I think. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, there's been a lot of good discussion here. So we have 10 minutes to talk before we go to a break. So, what did you think about all these comments? Is anything you would like to bring up?
Yeah, really, I see really nice answers for all of them. Yeah, for example, the modular code development for me,
Mhm,
very similar as the answers here. Dividing code into modules, classes, and functions. That's something I will do. And also, I'm very happy to see the last answer, something about abstraction layers and the separating concerns.
mhm,
Yeah, so
mhm,
you can build more complex stuff. That always
mhm,
means you're collaborating with people, I suppose. Yeah,
mhm.
to me,
Yeah.
it's like a hierarchical thing. Uh,
Mhm, mhm.
of functions might be uh, the one level of modular, and then you
Yeah.
have more high level stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like in my mind, this abstraction layers things, the prototypical example is something like um what's it called? Like the computer networking,
Mm.
TCP IP, which of course most people don't know a lot about, but I've messed with it some, and yeah, there's like all these layers that are built up, and whatever your application is doing, it shouldn't have to care about what's going on down below. And that means your application is simpler.
Yes.
What about for B here? What do you recommend for well-structured and modular code?
I can see the answers are very nice. Again,
Mhm,
I will use actually most of the strategies here to like split code
mhm,
to logic blocks. Yeah, and well, command line interface, of course.
mhm,
I will do
mhm,
this at some point, usually early point at a project
mhm,
that
mhm.
can make stuff easier. Yeah, for the future
Yeah.
tests or workflows.
Will you demonstrate making a command line interface in the
Uh,
later part of the
yes,
course?
I think if we have time, yeah, I
Okay.
will do this. Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah. I like this question. What do we know about programming that we wish someone had told us earlier?
Yeah.
What would we say?
Uh, Oh, okay, for
I
me,
mean,
actually, I quite agree with the second one, a main function. That's
yeah,
something I knew uh, late
yeah,
than I should have known.
yeah, yeah. I mean, all of these I agree with, and it's
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of hard to say what's the most.
Mm,
But I
mm,
guess whoever wrote this one here, like it's okay to have, yeah, I mean, all of my starting code, like I can look at things that I was working on 10 years ago and there's no README file. It's not installable. There's just a directory with a bunch of Python files. And I look at that and think, oh, I've done so much good stuff, but it's basically not that usable now. But that's okay. I mean, you start off and as long as you can get your work done at the time and you want to keep getting a little bit better as it suits you, then
yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay.
I suppose everyone has a very uh how to say impressive thing that you hope you know earlier. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's great if you know it at some point.
yeah. Also sort of related to this, I have no idea how to teach someone to make modular code, despite being here teaching this. Like to me, like my background isn't software development at all,
Me either.
or computer science. So, somehow I've gotten to these things that sort of work and make my code work well, but yeah, it's not,
Mm. Yeah,
it's
very
something I've just
similar
sort of
here.
picked up and
Yeah.
now I'm happy with how it is, but how I say it, yeah, I don't know. It's like learning yourself. I guess most people here are doing research in something or the other, and that means you're pretty smart and you can figure out what you need. Hopefully, we've helped you get started.
Yes.
Do you design code on paper before coding?
Uh, Not always. Yeah, like people answered here. Sometimes. Maybe more times nowadays than before,
Yeah.
because I started my career as some data analysis thing. That's actually
Mm,
what we're going to
mm.
see today. I usually rush into the results I want to get.
Yeah, yeah,
But nowadays, I will do the designing thing more.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, like rush to write
yeah.
some code.
Right.
Mm, that's
Yeah, I
exact.
sort of like that. I rush to make a bad version and I realize, okay, in a week or two or a month or two, I'm probably going to rewrite it once I know what I actually need
Mm,
and do some big restructurings or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes I've actually planned stuff out on paper before doing, and I think it's always paid off when I've done that. So take that as you would like. Yeah. What about top down or bottom up?
Um, well, for me, it it used to be top down from a big picture.
Mhm.
But as I mentioned, I will do more design things, so I will start bottom up more nowadays.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but it depends on the task. I agree with this comment here.
Which
Uh,
one? The
the top down most of the times it depends
top
on
down.
the task. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So top down to you, does it mean like starting with the user interface or the
Yeah,
command line or whatever you run there
yeah, kind of.
instead of starting with individual functions which do
Yeah.
something? Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, this is a good last one. Code 2 times slower if it's easier to read or understand.
Uh, yeah.
But there's, I guess it depends on what it means by your code. Because this is a good point here. I mean, I guess a lot of our code actually has to have a lot of data and is somehow speed critical.
Mm.
but
Yeah. Mm. If you are doing
it's,
like some high performance computing, then the speed is really important.
yeah.
Uh,
But also like the whole idea of Python. Python itself is not that fast for numerical calculations, but you have all the speed critical code in other libraries that are written in C or Fortran or whatever,
yeah.
and those run really fast. But
Yeah.
then your code is more reasonable and faster to do and sort of glues together that code. And I mean, I guess that's basically the reason why Python is so popular. It's definitely not unique to Python. I mean, MATLAB, R, all these languages are basically the same thing. There's a bunch of code written in C and Fortran, and then some interface language on top of it that lets you connect
Yeah.
stuff together.
Yeah.
Have you ever written stuff in C or Fortran for Python and then connected it somehow?
Maybe some small things, not very big project. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I've
that's
also,
actually what people do a lot. Writing some C code, some fast C code, and make a Python interface for it.
yeah, I've also done it a few times, and it's pretty cool to be able to do that. And I mean, it definitely does take more time, but usually the time's worth it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very friendly to users. You can get the performance, and meanwhile, you can have a very easy to understand interface.
Yeah. Okay, so my timer says it's almost time for our break. I
Yes.
guess we see some comments from the coding track here,
Oh, yeah.
but I guess, yeah, well, we can look at that when we get back from the break, and
Yes.
it will be use screen, and we will do
The
live coding.
live coding. Yeah, actually, we can fit these comments or suggestions here to the live coding. So
Mm,
let's take a break until 3 past the hour.
yes. Okay,
Yes.
see you soon.
Okay. See you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Hello, we're back. I suppose you can see my notebook. So next, I will do lab coding. I will start basically from where Richard stopped. Like I did the precipitation and the average values visualization. I will be the one who is using the keyboard, and uh, please give your suggestions in the notes, and we will yeah fit that and use that suggestions to improve the code here.
Yeah,
But should we have a look at
okay.
the comments from the coding track actually? Uh,
Ye-
so what people are
Yeah.
trying to do is to replace comments with functions, remove
Mhm.
redundant comments. Yes, good points. We will do
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Maybe we can start.
Yeah.
Mm,
So basically, each of these commented blocks can become a function of some sort,
yes.
and it
Yeah,
takes some
can.
arguments.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, the
Yeah.
comments actually gives the information about what this block of code is doing.
Yeah.
Now, actually, you can already see it's very long. It can't fit into my screen. There are duplications for the precipitation and
Yeah.
the air temperature. But
Yeah.
let's imagine that we want to visualize more months. Now we have only January. If we want to have like a
Mm,
February and
okay.
March, well,
Yeah.
I think the natural way to do is adding a for loop.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
will
Yeah. I guess you don't want to go copy and paste this 3 times, so
no,
for loop
definitely
instead.
not.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Where does the loop
basically,
start?
it's oh, it's
I
really too long.
guess. Yeah,
here.
right around there. Yeah.
Yes. I'll firstly fix the indentation and then add the for loop. So for month I will give a list here. Maybe I will copy stuff from here. So we have for January and March and February.
Mm-hmm.
So this.
Month. Yeah. Name.
But we needed to actually we don't need this.
Okay, yeah. So
We
we
need
need to grab the
we need the
subset.
data for each month. I'll give it a new variable name, like a month data.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so basically
Yeah.
do this thing
We don't
for
want to call it
each.
the same as month.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, that's it. Do you think this will work or not? Or do you think it will give us error?
So I can see we need to replace where it says January with month data. But where?
Yeah, why not just run it?
Okay, yeah, let's see.
Run it.
I often
Okay.
do the same. Like I'll run and see what works and doesn't work. So
Yeah. Okay.
okay, there we go. So it's an
Okay.
undefined variable.
Yeah, actually now we have month data. We needed to replace all of this stuff with it. So here.
I guess you could define every month to be called January, but that would just be confusing later.
Yes.
Okay. There, yeah.
Another one. Another one.
And I guess this is the first good thing. Now the same text or same thing in the loop works for every month, and you don't have to go renaming this variable ever again.
Mm.
So
Yeah, you can use one variable name to represent them.
yeah.
But actually, there's another thing we need to fix because it's hard coded here, the January in the output file name.
Oh,
So
right. Okay.
yeah, I will replace that with month, but make it a string, a formatted string.
Yes. Okay. And this is the fancy Python syntax to do that.
Yeah,
And it's there.
and also here. Well, this should work. Let's see. Okay, it
Oh, yeah.
gives the plots for each month. Mm.
This is faster than it was when I tested it because I was like renaming too many variables and had to figure out what was wrong. But
Okay.
yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Is there any suggestions for what to do next? I don't see anything in the notes. Someone in the notes said, can we find and replace all of them at once? And the answer is yes, in a good editor. I mean, you
Yes.
can always do a find and replace, but fancy editors will be able to look at the context and know that this is
Yes.
a variable while this is inside of a string or something like that.
Yes. Exactly.
Someone suggests type view for images. I guess that's about having less border or
Like a smaller size.
maybe. I'm not
Yeah,
quite
maybe.
sure, actually.
I'm not sure is okay. Okay. Different rows and column. In rows and columns.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Well,
Do you
I
do you know
don't
how to
know.
do that offhand? Because
I
I'd have to
roughly
look that
know,
up
but I
and
can't
see.
remember the exact syntax here. I think it's
Yeah.
adding something here like 3 and
Mhm.
1 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Plots
I will
3.
skip this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also if we do too much, we're going to later change the number of months. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I guess, yeah, because I think that we're probably going to make this a function eventually where the function will plot just 1 month and
Yes.
make 2 plots.
Yeah.
Um,
Or even one plot if
yeah,
we use more, if we want to make it more flexible.
yeah.
Yeah. But
So someone
anyway,
said,
sorry.
go ahead.
Oh yeah,
Think-
there's still quite a lot of repetition in the loop body. Yes,
Yeah,
that's very correct.
yeah,
We should fix this next,
yeah.
I think.
So do you, like whenever you're making plots, do you have a function that makes the plot like this here? Like,
I
well,
will
I
do
guess,
that
yeah, I guess it
because
kind of makes sense because we have something that comes in
yeah, we can
and
see
it
a lot of
will,
stuff like value names, label names, colors, this
yeah,
kind of things.
hmm
I
hmm
usually will create a function for it.
yeah.
Yeah, let's maybe do
Should
it.
we do that now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah,
So I will move this stuff to a block. Okay, I think it's really too long now.
yeah. The Jupyter interface is a bit, how can
Maybe
you grab it
I will copy part by part.
part by part? Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess really you only need to copy half of it because there's a lot of repetition.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will define a function.
okay.
Just call it plot.
Mm-hmm.
We'll copy
Okay,
more stuff from here.
yeah.
Where did I get? Okay, horizontal lines. I'll copy this stuff.
So what will you have the function do? Will it make one of the plots, like temperature or precipitation, or will you have it make the 2 plots together?
We could make
Or,
the 2 plots together, or we can, if we want to make it more flexible, we can like have a variable indicating which measurement we want to plot.
mm-hmm.
That's also an option. What should we do actually? Well, if we
Yeah,
want the code to be shorter or even easier to read, maybe
yeah,
maybe we should let it plot only one
yeah,
plot. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you'll make a function which plots either temperature or
Yeah. Or the
precipitation.
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
I will remove this stuff. There are too much stuff here. So basically, we will call the function. Oh,
okay,
sorry. Plot. We
yeah,
will give some variables here. But let's fix the function firstly.
yeah. Okay,
Since
there's
we
some
want,
suggestions of parameters in the notes. So as
mm,
parameters, the column of the data frame and the
mm,
string for the title of the plot. And I guess the color?
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
okay,
so. Yeah,
color, someone's writing.
the color.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Should a file name be the parameter, like the
yeah,
file name to save to?
yeah. The
Okay,
file name and yeah. Let's do this one by one.
yeah.
Yeah. Someone mentioned that doing this subplots twice a bit scary. Yes, I agree. So let's remove one of them. Well, it works. There's no error for that, but yes, it's not very clear. So we needed to have we needed to know like
So,
which month we want to plot, or maybe not.
yeah, should the month be captured inside of this function or outside?
Maybe let's do this step by step.
Yeah,
Capture
okay,
the month later. for the time. If we do too much stuff, maybe it's a bit confusing.
Like somehow I think like the month capturing or the filtering should happen outside the function. Guess this is often sort of like what I do. Let's see, how would I say it? I have some functions which take the data and read it, some functions which process the data and filter it down to what I need to analyze, and then some functions which analyze and plot that subset.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So that means we will have a variable for months here, right?
I think
okay,
it said the data frame, so like
the data
month
frame.
data would be the first parameter.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
sounds like what I've done before.
So let's say we should have a column, and for the label, someone also mentioned the color, and what else? Well, let's check out the hard-coded stuff. Actually, that should be the things we replace with parameters, right?
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Just remove it one by one.
Yeah. So this should be the label, the color, and then so this is also the column. Yeah, and this actually should be replaced with the label again. Yeah. And the color. Well, line styles.
I guess that can stay the same.
Yeah, it can stay hard
Or
coded.
is it?
Maybe
I guess we can split stuff out from being hard coded one at a time after we know for sure we want it. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Now we also replace this with label. But maybe this should also be a variable. So like let's call it location. But I should add it here.
Okay.
So location. Here it should be the label.
Yeah.
So here it's the temperature. We probably want to replace this with
column maybe, or label,
or
maybe
label.
column. Yeah, I guess. I guess now we can make it slightly less perfect to make it more reusable, and that's just a choice we have to make.
Yeah, and we do have a month here. That means we need to add here.
Right. Yeah, so it has to be passed in here anyway. Yeah.
It needs to be passed anyway. Yeah.
Could the file name be passed in instead of the?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's a good point. We pass a file name for it.
Yeah, and then it's like can really be used in even other projects or other completely different stuff. And
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Actually, in most cases, file name should be a parameter instead of hard coded in the function.
Yeah.
Then does that mean we don't need this month?
Yeah, I guess it's not in there.
I think it should work now, but let's see. Let's try it out and then make some errors, maybe.
Yeah, that's the best way to see it.
Yeah. Let's say if we want to plot air temperature, then the first parameter should be air
Yeah, what's it
Temperature.
called?
It's called the Celsius.
Celsius. Yeah.
And the second parameter is label,
Label.
color,
Was,
location, file name. Yeah. So the label, we give it like air temperature Celsius.
Celsius. Okay,
Maybe
yeah.
something
Or it was C.
something easier to understand,
Yeah.
something shorter. And
Yeah.
then the color,
Red
right?
was this one.
And then location and the file name.
Location.
So
Yeah, the
location is
Helsinki one.
valid. Yeah, because the data is taken from FMI, there are different, you may have different locations. So I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we have the file name. But for file name, we still need some Python string
Yeah, I guess
syntax
it's
here. So month here,
not the month.
and then the
Temp
temperature.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, temperature.
There's a good suggestion. I would use keyword arguments for that function. I guess we
Yeah.
can add that later.
Yeah. We should add that later. Let's see if it works now. Okay, it works.
Whoa, yeah. Okay.
But
For 3 months.
yeah, we have 3 months. But
Yeah.
there's something I'm concerning because in Jupyter Notebook, variables are installed in the memory all the time. There might be some hidden errors.
Yeah. So we have to restart the notebook and run it again.
What I
Okay.
would do is to restart the kernel and run it again. I don't know if there's a better practice, but that's always what I would do. So I would do.
Now that you mentioned, I would do the same. Yeah.
So I will do this.
It would be a great example if it didn't work now.
I hope it did work. Yeah, that would take some time. Okay, it still works. That
It
means
still worked. Okay, that was good.
That means we didn't make mistakes.
That was a good.
Mm.
There's a comment here. Month data is a global variable. Better to pass it as a parameter.
Very great point. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's a very good point. And we will see. It's great that someone noticed this, but imagine if no one noticed this. Is there a more, how to say, systematic way to detect such kind of problems in Python, for example?
Would do some of these like code analyzers detect this stuff or
Yes,
something?
I think yes, some editors have this kind of static checker thing to check this kind of problems. I can show that later, but that needs you to have everything in a function. Then it can easily capture this kind of problems. So maybe let's do that, and then we will see how to use editors to detect this kind of problems for us. But it's great someone noticed this. Yeah. So, well, I have another habit actually. I would separate the statistics from the visualization most of the cases.
Okay. So is it like
We
you
can see
pass
some
in?
calculations here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in this example, this is just a simple averaging operation. But in some real world applications, it might be something more complex than this.
Yeah.
I will separate this into a different function.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for that purpose, I will maybe
Mhm.
remove this and make a function that can be
Yeah.
called in the plot.
Can we use the NumPy mean function or something like that? Or some,
You mean instead of this? Yeah, I think
yeah,
so, because
if
the
that's,
values it's a NumPy array.
yeah.
Let's
And
try it out.
are you going to pass in, have a parameter be the function to apply to do the statistic? Or,
Yeah, I think I will do that. That's what
okay,
I will do.
okay, sounds good.
So I will move this out, like
Yeah.
define a function, arithmetic mean.
Mm-hmm.
It should take the values,
Mm-hmm.
right? And well,
Yeah.
maybe instead of doing
So,
this, we can do what you suggested, because it's basically a NumPy array, right? Values
so use the
dot
dot
mean.
mean or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then we need to have num. Do we need? Okay, maybe we don't need that because it's a dependency of
Yeah,
pandas.
it's still, yeah, it's just that's the method and not the, okay, yeah.
Yeah. We need to return. This is something for Python. I think in some languages you don't need this, right? Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. Not mean
Uh,
temp anymore, but mean value maybe.
mm-hmm.
Mean value.
Yeah.
Then I will say so
Val,
the mean value should be. I know this looks a bit unnecessary, but the point is to separate statistics from visualization in case you
yeah,
have a more like a
yeah, I
more,
guess.
yeah.
Like if you can do it like this, like in this case, it's really overkill. Like we don't need
Yeah, in this
this
case,
extra
it's a
thing,
bit. Mm,
but I could imagine making some plot where I plot my data and I want to plot whatever summary statistics I calculate,
mm,
and that summary statistics may change often. Maybe the
yeah,
summary statistic is the thing I'm developing, and then I would
yeah,
pass whatever
mm,
thing in as a parameter and say, this is what I'm
yes,
doing.
yes,
But
exactly.
yeah, okay.
Mm. Let's see if that works.
Hmm.
I will run this again. Okay, got some error. So mean temp is not defined. Yeah, we replaced this with the error is from here. It's not a mean temp because it's not specific for temperature. It's more
Hmm.
general. So we name it differently. It's mean
Yeah,
value now. Okay,
okay,
still somewhere. Mean
yeah.
temp. Maybe I didn't save it. Where it is? Here. So mean value. Let me run it again. Okay, it works now. Okay, we got this for 3 different
Oh,
ones.
it worked. Okay,
Yeah,
good. Let's see, how's our time doing?
we have 20 minutes left, around
Yeah.
20 minutes left. Should we, wait, maybe we should
You.
continue the, I would like to show the main function, which can help to
Mm,
do the static checking.
yes, main function. That's a good thing to do. So, okay.
Yeah,
The main function is where we take all the code that's all the way on the left side,
yeah,
and we put it somewhere. Okay. So
Yeah,
basically we're eliminating all the global variables.
yes. Then the
Okay.
checker can find the errors.
Mhm.
Let me do this. I will first fix the indentation and
Mhm.
define a main function.
Main, yeah. Mhm.
So this is a syntax.
Okay, if name, yeah. And if you haven't used Python, this thing that you is typing here is basically, it's the way you say, when I'm running this as a script, then run the stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
But should we move to a Python script now? Actually.
Yeah, maybe that's good. Well, first,
Mm.
does this run? Let's verify that. I guess now we see if we have any leaking global variables.
Do you think this works?
Should you
Yeah,
restart and run all?
that's a good idea.
Yes, there. The moment of truth.
Okay, now we got an error. This is
We have
what
something leaking.
we are looking forward
Yeah.
to. Yeah, the mass data is not defined. So why we didn't see this error before we put everything into the main function? Because it's global variable before, but now it's a variable defined in the main function. It's not visible to the plot. So in the plot function,
Mhm.
it's not visible. It will give you the error not defined. But this is after we run it. With some editors, they can actually detect this without running the code. They can do some static
Mhm.
checking. But I
Yeah.
think for that, we need to move this to a Python script.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's not the only motivation to move this stuff to a Python script instead of using the notebook.
Mhm.
There are other reasons why we need to move this. For example, you have learned auto testing before last week, I think. For that purpose, that's also another big motivation to move this to a Python script.
Mhm.
And also other reasons, for example, how to put this into another workflow, then a notebook is not ideal anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will save this to a Python script then.
Okay. And can you do that with, does Jupyter have some easy way to do that?
Yeah, with Jupyter Notebook, we can click the file and save and export notebooks as a executable script. That's it. It will ask me where to save it. I will just save it here. Now we can see we have a demo.py script.
Okay.
If I open it, it's what we
Yeah.
have in the notebook. I will remove
It's all
this.
the stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I take this and do Python with this file name, does it work? Oh, by the way, on line 62, I saw, does it need the .png on the end
Oh, yes, that's a good point.
on the file name?
Well, it works, but
Yeah, I guess it works somehow.
it works. You can still save the files, but it's
Yeah.
definitely not a good way to have that.
Oh, it adds it automatically. Okay, well, that's news to me. Okay,
Maybe
good.
yes, but
Yeah,
it's needed. It will be strange without this.
yeah. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So now, as I said, if we open it in some editor, it will show the error. Let me do that actually. I will. For example, if I open it in VS Code, I will quickly show this because this is very useful, I think.
You're going to show it detects the error that we saw by running it. Okay.
Yeah, can you see my notebook now?
Yeah, maybe if you can make it a little bit larger.
Yeah.
Oh, now
Like
it's,
this.
yeah.
Now you
Okay.
can see this wavelength saying that month data is not defined.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I said. Without running it, the editor can do static checking and tell you
Yeah.
which ones are not defined. It can show all the undefined things. Yeah, that's the point. I hope this is clear.
Mhm.
It's also in the material there also a screenshot. Yeah, you can check later if
Yeah.
this is not. You can also try it
Mhm.
out in your editor. Maybe someone already know about this, but I think this is very useful.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, I don't use this as much as I should. I sometimes do it, but I haven't gone that much.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so now I guess you'll fix it. So,
Yes, we need to fix this. That means we need to replace these two lines. And maybe let's think of some. Actually, the first one is the range of the visualization, and the second one is the value. Maybe I could just put another replace this with two different variables. Like first is the range, and the second actually is the values. And then it is basically the index basically
I
is
see.
the data range.
Yeah.
And this is
Okay. When would you pass in the data frame compared to the two data series individually? I guess by passing in the series, you don't have to give it the column name
yes.
anymore. So that's like,
Yeah, basically we don't need this anymore.
yeah,
We
that
pass
makes it
the
somehow,
series.
yeah. Okay.
Well, for plot can recognize both, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Now we have this,
Data
but
frame,
we
yeah.
need to here we need to have so the data range actually will be the month data month data, sorry, month data. I think it's index, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Mm.
And then the second
And
one was the column name.
yeah. So the values could be so it's a month data, and then actually we could hard code here, right? Or not?
Yeah, because now if this is the main thing we do, I guess it's, yeah.
Because it's already like
Yeah,
in a
it's
main
already there.
function. Okay. So the first parameter is the data range. The second one is the values.
Values, okay, yeah. And then label, color,
Label,
location.
color, location, and the file name.
Yeah, okay.
Will this thing work? Let's try it.
Let's see.
Probably we'll see
Okay.
some errors. But I need
So,
to. Yeah, please go ahead.
yeah, you need to source the
Yeah, I need to.
environment.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Refinery. Yes. Yeah, because I need
Yeah.
to have the correct Python for this.
Okay.
It
Uh,
worked.
yeah,
Well,
I guess
I
no
didn't see
output
error.
is good.
Maybe
And
I
I
can
see,
remove this stuff and run it again
yeah,
to
okay, good idea.
confirm this.
Okay, yeah. And does it appear?
Oh, there may, okay,
Yeah,
I need
okay,
to refresh this. Yeah, now
yeah,
it plotted this
okay,
the
great.
temperature for each month here.
Yeah,
Okay, so it worked.
yeah,
We fixed the errors and it worked, and it's everything in the code block in the
yeah.
script is encapsulated into function.
Hmm. Yeah.
How much time we have?
We
We
have maybe 10 or 20 minutes, depending on what we do.
uh,
Um,
we can show
can
test or command line interface or both.
can we show command line interface? At least that's what I'm most interested in, and I
Mm,
always like to show.
okay.
So what's the point of the command line interface? So,
Uh, well, for me, for
and,
example, I usually do something in parallel. I will run many copies of a script
mm-hmm,
for data analysis. So for I want to pass different variables. Like for
mm-hmm,
example, here we do the for loop thing, but if I have a command line interface, I can pass different variables from the command line and fit that into a script which can run the Python scripts in
mm-hmm,
parallel.
yeah,
That's usually my motivation to have this.
yeah,
Well, another very common reason is you want to change something, you want to change some variables, some arguments, but you don't want to touch the code.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You only want to do it from the command line interface.
yeah. I guess that's always the first one I start with, and
Mm.
then the parallel comes later. But I
Yeah,
guess so,
yeah.
for example, in this case, let's say we have this thing, we want to plot different months.
Mm.
So from the command line, we can give it the file name of the input and the month to plot or months to plot, whatever,
Yeah.
and then give it the file name to save it, and then it will save it there, I
Mm.
guess.
Yeah, yeah. That means we don't need to touch anything of the code, but we can flexibly do
Mhm.
different statistics and different visualizations for this data set.
Mhm.
Yeah, should we start?
Yeah.
Which
So,
one do you use? There are many different
yeah,
ways to do this to add a command line interface.
yeah.
Uh,
So I'm an old-fashioned and simple person. I always use the Python built-in argparse library, but it is a lot of extra typing and stuff like that. The example in the lesson material uses the click library.
yeah, I think it's a kind of newer one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What do
I
you
used
like using?
well, I kind of prefer Click nowadays.
Okay, yeah, let's do
Uh,
click. I'm always
yeah,
happy to see something new.
yeah, um, yeah. Let's.
So I guess the purpose of click and argparse is to take these things from the command line, like the dash dash label or the different arguments, and then
Mm,
map them to stuff inside of the code.
yeah,
And it's actually not that hard. You'll see how simple it is with something like click.
yeah. The
So,
syntax for Click is like by adding some decorators on top of the function, the main function.
mhm,
But we need to import Click firstly.
mhm,
Import Click. Okay. So we first add decorator, which is command,
good.
and
Okay, I guess that somehow labels it as being a command.
yes, that's telling Python. Okay,
Yeah.
this function will take some variables from the command
Mhm.
line. And then we add the arguments one by one. It's called the click.option.
Mhm.
For example, firstly, we want to have month. It's a
Mhm.
very, very natural way.
Yeah. And it's required.
Yeah, it has.
I see you're typing.
The syntax here actually is very similar to the arg parser.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
have you indicate if it's required and what the type is.
Yeah.
Well, for month it's a string, and usually it's good to have a help text
Help.
here.
Mm.
Then
Mhm.
people can run help to see the
Yeah.
the information, the instructions here. So we could see
Ooh.
which month. Which
Here
month?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, usually give it like
And change the format.
yeah, the format. Then
Okay.
people can know.
So people see. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that it's similar as argparser. Yeah.
Yeah. So for options.
Maybe we should also have the file name. Well, it's hard coded here.
Mhm.
It's maybe it's better to have it.
Yeah. Yeah. The input file names is always a
Yeah,
thing I would have as the
the output or input.
input
That's
thing.
yeah.
Mhm.
This is also required.
Mhm.
It's not a string, but it's a path thing. Actually, click has
Okay.
a object defined here. It's called a click dot path.
Mhm.
It has something else. It has its own parameters. It's good to make it explicit here. For example, if it exists. So this means we need this thing to exist.
Okay,
Otherwise,
so
you
it
get errors.
yeah, so I guess it'll give a better error message than just the code failing saying can't
Yeah,
open or something.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. I think so.
well that's a nice feature.
Yeah, maybe it's a feature that newer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the path tab, it's
Type.
okay. Actually, here I will use an also easy to validate thing, pass on
Mm,
defined path object.
is that
We
from the pathlib thing?
yes.
I've used it a few times. It's nice, but
Uh,
it's always hard for me to remember what's in there. So
yeah, but I think it like you said, the error message should be more specific
right, yeah. Hmm.
and maybe can like make some validations without this. Maybe if you give just a string, it cannot do
Hmm.
this kind of validation for you.
Yes, 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 makes sense.
Mm.
Okay.
Better to also have some help. What
Mm-hmm.
we can say, like read data
Yeah.
from this file,
Hmm.
something like
And I
this.
guess we don't need to go much more than that. It's
File name. Yeah.
yeah, like we could go saying what the format of the file should be and all that, but
Mm.
it's probably better to leave that for the README or whatever,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess. Okay, yeah.
And also we can have something else here. For example, output.
Like output.
Yeah, output should be similar to output. Maybe
Uh,
give it. Usually, I will give it a directory name. So which
mm,
I don't
mhm.
want to have every image in the current folder.
Okay, okay, yeah. And then I guess if you're saving multiple images, then it
Yeah,
needs
it will make the current
multiple
the
things.
present folder very
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
complex. So I usually give it output
Yeah.
like a output directory.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing. It's also a pass tab.
Yes.
But instead of read data, I will see write data to this directory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
something like this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how, I guess you'll say how to get the data into the function. And that is,
yeah, now we have this. We need to have this variables in the function, in the main function. First month and then the file name.
yeah.
So file name, maybe it's not quite clear. I will say data file.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because there's multiple file names that could
Yeah,
be
file name
there.
sounds too general.
Mm-hmm.
Data file. Oh, should be lowercase and then the output. Yeah, this. Then we can replace it with file name. Oh,
Or
sorry,
data
data
file.
file,
Yeah.
data file. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
then we have months. Yeah, now we don't want to the for loop, right? We
Okay.
want to have the we want to
Yeah.
have this plot
We're
individually.
replacing the for loop with,
Rep
basically now we can do a for loop by running it multiple times from the shell.
Yeah, from the shell,
Yeah.
exactly.
And we can automate that if needed, but anyway.
We can automate that or parallelize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the
Right. Yeah.
month
And it
date.
just already there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
output
the
there.
output should be added here,
Yeah.
I think. So output directory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the syntax with the slash I've seen with the pathlib paths, it means like appending or like adding a slash and then file name within a directory.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So this I'll remove
Yeah.
the unnecessary comments.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's see if it.
Do you think it will work?
I
Can you
would.
show the help?
Oh yeah. We can
Okay.
actually show the help. So it's Python demo.py. I think that's
Help.
okay.
Oh, yeah, this is nice.
This actually is very clear. So the
Yeah.
month should be a text. This should be path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now if you come back to this after a while, you don't necessarily have to go open up the code, but you can run -- help and see the basics.
Yeah. So
I
basically,
do this.
if there's no error in the script, then we can. Most
Yeah.
of the time, stay just with the terminal.
Yeah.
Let's
So should
try
we
it out.
try? So
So
one, our
data
data file.
file. It's our data file is weather data, right?
Weather.
It's a CSV file.
Yeah.
Month. Okay. The order doesn't matter, right?
Right, yeah. When you have these double dashes, then there's two types of things you can give to command line functions. There's these options like this that can be in any order, but you can also define what's it called? Arguments, and it has to be in the same order, but you don't need the double dashes there.
Yeah.
and
Sure.
I'll use whichever depending on what I'm doing.
Yes. So output directory, can I use the present? Maybe that also works.
Yeah.
Let's try it
Uh,
because I did. Okay. There's
output.
output directory. Is there a typo? Or
It
such?
looks correct to me. Huh.
Output directory. Maybe it's a. Let me see. Oh,
Could it
it's
be
smaller.
something about the
Okay,
type
I
of
should have a
dashes
space.
there?
No, I should have a space here. There was no
Okay,
space.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, there was no space because the
That
font
took,
says it's a bit too big.
yeah.
It seems
It
it
worked.
worked. I
Yeah,
didn't see
4
error.
seconds ago.
Yeah, 4
Or do we
seconds
need to
or
refresh?
yes.
11.
Yeah, I have refreshed. It's newly created actually.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it worked. There's no error.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, good.
Yes. So that's for the command line interface.
Yeah. I guess we're almost out of time. Do we want to try to do anything else, or should we?
Well, there's something else we can do. For example, auto test. Another thing is we can see that actually the data reading and the data pre-processing are also are still in the main function. I would extract this to to another function actually.
Yeah.
But maybe we don't have time for this. I want to mention this.
Yeah. I guess maybe we should make sure we can end early and not do too much,
yeah.
But maybe, or should we discuss after the break and put this in the context of what we do for our other work?
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can do
maybe.
that.
Yeah, and if there's time, we can do more later, but let's.
Yes.
It's been over an hour since the last break, so.
Yeah, we should take
Okay.
a break.
Okay, I'm adding it to the notes.
So
Break until 8 minutes past.
8 minutes past, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll see you after the break for the discussion of this. We'll talk about how it relates to work we actually do and so on. A simple example. We can talk about what else we would do, and we'll have the outro and conclusion of the whole workshop. So stick around.
Yep.
Okay, see you soon. Bye.
See you. Bye.
So, yeah, we've got just a little bit of time left. So if there's anything you'd like us to discuss, please fill in with the notes here. So also other stuff we could do or questions about what we had before, etc. And as usual, the feedback is in the bottom. So please let us know what you think. And you can comment not just on today's lesson, but the whole workshop. What did you think? Please let us know for next time. Okay, so if we come back, we're sort of back to where we started from. So we did this exercise. We thought one starting place could be looking at these discussion questions again.
Yes.
So now after having done this, what does modular code development mean for you? Can we somehow explain it?
Yeah, I think what we did here is initially we have a, a block of code which works somehow, but when we want something more from it, we want to avoid the duplications. We want to make it easy to read, and then we do something. For example, added functions, uh, added
Yeah.
command line interfaces to make it easy to use. By doing
Yeah.
all of these steps, we somehow achieve the modularized
Yeah.
code. I think that's
Mhm.
a very natural way of doing modular code development. Like breaking, splitting a big block of stuff into different
Yeah.
logic uh,
Mhm.
packs. Sometimes
Yeah.
functions, sometimes classes or modules.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, okay. Yeah. Now that we've done this work, I can better say what it means to me. So it means I can do something and then get it done and then not have to look inside of it again, but I can reuse it. So for example, as you made the command line script at the end, so this is a really simple example, and what we could do in an hour was not that much, but it's quite reasonable that I, like a kind of thing I've done before. I've done this big analysis or something, and I know it's really important to me. So I make the command line thing, and then in the future in all my projects, I can run the same analysis on some files by running it from the command line on whatever inputs and save it where I need to. Or it becomes a Python library where I can import it directly in Python and run it that way without command line. Whatever the case, like there's something that's reusable that way. Mm, yeah. What should we answer next? Um,
Mm,
Best practices. I guess
We,
there's
yeah,
nothing really new there.
we tried out some.
Yeah. Did this go okay without designing it on paper and stuff like that?
I would say not all
Maybe
the
not.
time. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
depends. If it's a big project, maybe design it on paper or even have a meeting with
Yeah.
uh, people. Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least what the big pieces are. Like, for example, we could figure out what we want each function to do in advance. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like, and the details don't matter, but how they connect is good.
Mm.
What do you say we built this top down or bottom up?
Uh, I would do more bottom,
Yeah,
bottom up. Yeah.
I mean, we started with something that could actually work. So it was like, it was connected at both the top and bottom, but
Yeah.
maybe it's sort of more bottom up, like you said, because it,
I will
what
for
do you
example,
say?
I will define some functions, maybe not perfect or
Mhm.
even not working, but I have them there, like a
Mm-hmm,
placeholder thing.
hmm hmm
Uh, then I will call them in, for example, the main function, or
Ah, yeah, yeah,
then I
yeah.
will complete
hmm
those uh, functions one by one.
Yeah, so complete it one by one in an order that gets or lets stuff run or, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that.
So basically, having the modular
Yeah,
code development concept in mind is
yeah,
always good.
yeah. So how often do you use modular code development processes? So mm,
And I think
let's see.
nowadays I do a lot
Yeah, these. I mean,
because
this is
it
actually a quite, oh, go ahead, sorry.
yeah it will save me some troubles in the future.
Yeah. For me, these is quite realistic. I make a really hackish first draft of something that just shows it works, and then I'll take quite a while slowly improving it and making it more modular until it becomes good enough. There's some questions in the notes. So,
Yes.
how much AI tools do you use when coding? I think this is a question for you because my experience there is sort of limited.
Actually, yes, it's quite a good question. We should mention this. Yes, I use AI
Yeah.
tools when I'm coding nowadays. Actually, AI tools are getting smarter. They have the concept of modularized modular coding development.
Mhm,
If you give it permissions, some AI tools can create somehow modularized
mhm.
project structure for you.
Yeah.
Uh, but the thing is, we must know this concept ourselves. Yeah.
Mhm, yeah. I guess I don't use AI tools that much, not like doing the whole projects for me. But there have been some times like, how do I do X? Can you give me some examples? And that's been really good. Or, for example, I needed to code something, some web control panel for something. And I looked and I couldn't understand the documentation about how to actually set up the whole project because I'm just not that much of a web person. But I could say, please use this thing and make a working example that connects to what I need and works. And that got me a working starting point.
Yes.
And then I could keep working from there and I'd be asking questions like, okay, so um how does like how do I do these little different things? But usually I'm connecting it myself and I'm copying and pasting line by line and understanding each line rather than doing it wholesale. So I think that's a lot less than most people do. But then again, I'm not doing that much coding these days, not like you is, for example.
Yeah, but even with AI tools, I think it's always good to understand the code line by line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not
So,
like some people do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
what
and
do I?
which one do you use? So
I use
mostly,
VS Code has the GitHub's Copilot integrated.
mhm,
Another popular one is Cursor. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, those things. There are
mhm,
many of them, and it's developing very quickly, I would say. So,
mm, mhm,
uh, I don't have best practice in terms of AI tools. I'm also kind of
mhm.
exploring something.
Yeah,
But I think the ideas, for example, modular code development, still applies, even whatever tools you are
yeah,
using. Mm.
yeah,
If AI can
or
uh, achieve this, it's good. If it couldn't, then we should have this in
yeah,
mind.
yeah. I don't know if there's something better now, but I use the um, free and it claims to be private one
Mm.
in DuckDuckGo that
Ah,
it still uses OpenAI models in the back end, but I
okay.
do this so I don't have to make any accounts and nothing will be connected to me.
That's
Maybe
nice.
I'm old-fashioned that way, but
No,
that's what I do.
it's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And it works well enough for what I need. I mean, it's not that advanced, but
Mm.
it goes
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Can any other instructors that are listening help us to answer this question in the notes directly? Um, what do you use? I guess I often use I'm SSH to other like the computer cluster or things like that.
Mm.
And then I use a terminal-based IDE called Emacs to do my editing there.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if that's common for other people to do. Well, I know some people do this kind of stuff, but these days with VS Code, having the remote SSH, that's probably the
Yeah,
more
I think
common and more usable way of doing things.
yeah, I think
You-
yeah, because some of our colleagues are using VS Code, but I know someone
Yeah,
are like you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we haven't talked about using debuggers, which can stop in the middle of code and print out values of different things.
Mm, yeah.
That's quite good. For the libraries part here, we have an upcoming course called Python for Scientific Computing. And in that course, we talk a lot about the different Python libraries that are commonly used. And that goes more into the actual like code side of things. That course isn't designed to teach Python, but for people that have sort of used Python before, um, it's a it's a good course. Debuggers, TDD, I think means test-driven development, and I think that might have been mentioned
In
last
the
week.
yeah, I was not there.
Yeah. So what test-driven development means is before you go make a bunch of code, you first write the test, and then you write code which passes that test. And it sort of forces you to think in a way that actually can be tested. And that can be quite, when I've tried it before, it's actually quite nice. It improves reliability and all that. Should I go to the outro of the day now?
Yeah, I think
Please give feedback. This is still very empty. So if you don't tell us, we can't